Okay, here's the instructional video to make this little packman ghost pencil topper. I'll just close that down and we've got a new design. So very first thing we want to do every time we start a new project is to save it. You see currently my work is called unsaved. I'm going to save that, call it ghost, and it will change the file name to ghost in just a moment. There we go. That's good practice to make a new component. This is our sort of project title, if you like. If you right click new component and click it once, twice, call that ghost, and this will be the file that we're building on. This is sort of the project title and then the individual component. I'm going to turn the grid back on. I've just got a blank screen here. At the bottom there's a little grids and snaps button. I'm just going to turn the layout grid back on. So first step then, we are going to draw a circle. So we'll create a sketch. It's this button up here under the create tab, and I'm going to select the base plane. Now your view may look like that, in which case again just select that bottom plane. Doesn't matter too much. Mine is in this orientation, so I'm going to select that bottom plane there. And we need to draw a circle. So I could select the circle tool up here, or I could come into the create tab, which is now full of all the sketching icons, and I could go circle, center circle, or here you can see there's a little C. Anytime you see a letter next to an icon, it's a shortcut, so I can just press C on the keyboard. Like the line tool here is L and a 2-point rectangle is R. So I'm going to do that now. Just press C on the keyboard. You can note next to my cursor I've brought up the circle tool. I'm just going to press escape here to drop that. You can see as standard my cursor just looks like an arrow, like a standard mouse cursor. I press C and then the circle tool appears, and actually if I hover it tells me what to do. So first thing I'm going to do is place the center point. I'm going to stick that right in the middle and drag out. Now I want that to be 25 millimeters in diameter. What I'd advise, rather than trying to get this to 25, you probably could, but easiest is just to let go of the mouse and type 25, enter, and that's job done. I'm going to zoom in here. So put the mouse where you want to zoom. On Fusion, wherever you put the mouse, it zooms to that location. So if I put it off to the right and scroll in, I'm going to zoom to the right. But if I want to zoom in on my work, I put the mouse on the work and zoom in. So we want a second circle within that. I'll just press C again to bring up that circle tool. Click once more in the middle and drag out. This time it's an 8mm circle. I press enter and I've got my 8mm circle. I'm then going to extrude that entire shape 35mm, turn it from a 2D sketch into a 3D object. I'm going to do that by right clicking on the mouse and press pull. I'm then going to select 1, 2 profiles. You can see the extrude tab has popped up here. It says I've selected 2 profiles. Those are just the inner and outer circle. Now I would advise at this point rolling your work around a little bit just so you can see it, because we're looking top down. It's a little bit hard to see what's going on, so a really helpful shortcut is to press the shift key and the middle mouse wheel and then push the mouse away from you ever so slightly, and we've tipped our work and now we can see this blue arrow. I'm actually going to drag the work down the page. To do that you just press the middle mouse wheel by itself and pull down, and I'm going to drag that up 35mm like that. Press OK. Lovely. Next step, we're going to add a 12.5mm fillet to the top. So we've kind of created our three-dimensional shape with these tools on the left. We're now going to modify it. So the fillet is here, shortcut F. It's also up at the top usually, so I'm going to press up there for my fillet. Now you want to grab just the very top edge round here. Don't click the top or the side surface, you actually have to select the edge and drag that in. Now you see it's a little bit hard to see where that joins my visual style, if you like, at the minute is that I can't see the edges. If I come in here, display settings, visual style, it's just shaded. It's a little more kind of real world, but for modeling it's quite helpful to have shaded with visible edges. That should be the default, but if yours looks like mine does, you can turn that back on there. And now we can much more easily see where that midpoint is. So I'm going to change this. It needs to be 12.5 millimeters. And we've got a fully rounded top. I'm going to press Shift key again here and roll around so I'm looking at the underside. And we're going to start a sketch on this bottom plane here. So create sketch on this flat face. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Always good to have your work kind of filling the screen. It's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to use the line tool here, or there, or press the L key. I'm going to click once right in the middle. This gets a little bit tricky. You need to bring the line out to the edge, and if you see the cursor changes slightly when I get to the edge, it becomes a kind of crosshair. That's really important that you get that crosshair. If that's not happening for you, I'll show you what you need to do in just a sec. I'm going to draw one line there and another line below it. Now, if for whatever reason you didn't get the crosshair, what you're going to need to do is project the circle shape onto your sketch. We'll go create, project and include, and then project. And we just click that bottom face and press OK. And essentially all that's done is it's copied the outer edge of this circle onto my sketch. If I just turn off the body there, you'll see I've now got that big circle as part of my sketch. You don't need to do that. But, that project tool has kind of brought that circle in, and now when I draw the line, I'll just draw this one again. I've pressed the L key there to bring up the line tool, start once in the middle, and now it will definitely snap to the edge. It should do it naturally. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, again, you'll just need to go create, project, and include, and then project, and simply click the bottom and press OK. So I've drawn my two lines. Now it's really important that we set those to be 30 degrees apart. So to do that, we're going to use the dimension tool. Again, it's under the create tab, and down here at the bottom, dimension. You can always just press D, but that's kind of its home, if you like. So I'm going to select that. Now it's usually used for just dimensioning lines. So if I click a line and bring my mouse away, it gives me a length of the line. But what's quite a clever little trick is if you select that line as I have and then click the next line, it does the angle between them. I'll just show you that once more. I'm going to press the D key, and you note my cursor changes from normal to dimension mode. Click once on that line, once on the second line, bring it out just so that your dimension is kind of clear of the work, and click a third time to drop that dimension. Currently 36.6 degrees, I'm just going to type 30 and press enter. I'm then going to right click and press pull and just pick up that wedge. And again, I'm going to roll around here, so I'm looking at it from a bit of an angle, and drag up, and then pull that sort of wedge in 5 millimeters. If you just type -5 in there, you'll be fine. If you type 5, you'll get it as an addition, which we don't want. It's got to be -5, and press OK. Lovely. What we're going to do now is add a chamfer, which is kind of an angle to these two inner edges. Be a little bit careful not to select these two edges or even that back edge. It's got to be that edge and that edge. And how we do that is in the Modify tab, Chamfer, and then we click once on that edge, once on that edge, and if we drag this in at the moment, in the Chamfer tab here on the right, it says I've selected two edges, and the chamfer type is equal distance. If I look at this kind of side on, it's a bit easier to explain. What that means is as I drag it in, every 2 millimeters I come across, it's 2 millimeters down, so it keeps it at that sort of 45 degree, which is great for most jobs, but actually not what we need right now. The setting we need at the minute is to distance, distance 1 is going to be 5 millimeters, distance 2 is going to be 3.2. If for whatever reason 3.2 doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't, just change that out for 3.1. We're changing the this kind of horizontal distance that it's coming in from the edge, but 3.2 should work. And press OK. I'm going to give that a second. Brilliant. So now I've got one little wedge underneath. I'm actually going to turn the grid off here. You don't have to do this, it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of look at. So grids and snaps, layout grid off. There we go. So we've got one wedge. I need to have 12 of these all the way around. Now we could just draw triangle after triangle and chamfer each one, but there's quite a nice feature within Fusion where we can make a pattern of a shape that we've made, or a set of faces that we've created. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to click Create, come down to Pattern, and then Circular Pattern. These little windows on the right are really helpful. You might find yours gets minimized. Just bring it out if that's the case, because they really help kind of describe what we're doing. Everything in blue is kind of the next task, if you like. So firstly we need to select the objects we wish to copy, and for us that's the left and the right face of that little wedge. We then need to select the axis, that's the kind of point around which this rotation will be made. We're going to select the outer surface of this cylinder here, so just click anywhere on this outer surface. The type of revolution is full, and the quantity at the moment is set to 3. That's just its sort of default, and you can see it's if I press OK, it's going to bring in 3 of these little cutaway wedges total. I'm going to take that number all the way up to 12, and we should get a complete circle. There we go. Brilliant. Okay, I'm actually going to save at this point. It's good practice just to save kind of periodically as you go through. Right, the next bit is where it gets slightly trickier. We need to add the circles, the eyes, to the side of this. But if I create sketch, I can't make a sketch on a curved surface. It has to be a flat surface. I could do it on the original planes. If I really wanted, I could draw a sketch on this underside, but I can't. I can't draw on this curve, and that's really where I want the eyes to be. I'm going to press Escape just to get out of the sketch mode. The way we do this is by constructing what's known as a tangent plane. I'm going to click the Construct tab and then come down to Tangent Plane, and then you click the curved surface you wish for the plane to be put on. Now, a tangent is just a line that just touches a circle, and you can see the plane here just touches the edge of the circle, and that's what we're looking for. Doesn't really matter what degrees you set that to, it'll probably be 0 as standard. Doesn't really matter, it can be anywhere. Press OK. Alright, we're now going to start a sketch on that flat plane, so create sketch on there. And what we need to do is use that project tool again. So I'm going to click Create, Project and Include Project, or I could just press the P key on the keyboard. Now it's asking us to select the geometry. We're not going to do specified entities. We're going to move across to entire bodies. And we're going to click the entire packman ghost and press OK, and if I come around from the side you'll see that it's projected that entire shape onto the plane that I'm working on. If for whatever reason you move away from looking flat at your sketch, which I've just done here, the Look At tool is really helpful just to realign you and help you look flat at it, on at it. We're then going to draw a construction line. So I'm going to draw a line and press L or click the line tool from one side to the other. But what I want to do is, rather than that being a solid line which will get in the way of my extrusions later on, I'm going to turn it into a construction line by pressing this little icon here. Again, this might be minimized down the sketch palette, you just need to bring it out. Click construction, and you'll see now the lines are dotted lines. They're not going to become part of any sort of future extrusions, if you like. I'm going to draw a line all the way across from one side to the other. Next thing I need to do is draw some circles. We're not going to use the standard circle for this though. We're going to do a 2-point circle. I'm still in construction mode, so any circles I draw here will be in a construction mode. Let me just show you kind of what to do if that happens. The circles you want to draw are going to be snapped to this line here, so I'm going to click anywhere along that construction line and pull down, and the diameter is going to be 6 millimeters, so I'm going to press 6 and enter. But you can see that line is a dotted line, and I want it to be solid, so if I select it and then press construction, it will become a solid line. If I go create circle, 2-point circle, if you take off construction first, it will just draw the shape correctly. Again, I'm going to draw this second circle with the start point on the line, so click once, drag down, and if you happen to click before you put the number in, let's say I click there by mistake and it's obviously way too big, I can use the dimension tool, so either here, dimension, or you can just press D to bring up the dimension tool. I'm going to click once on the circle, drag out, it's currently 10.2, I'm going to make that 6 and press enter. Now you'll note these two circles are blue, they can be dragged around, and we don't want that, we want them fixed in place, so there's a couple of things we need to do here. Firstly, even though we started this circle up on the line, it can be moved away from it. So the first thing we're going to do is use the tangent tool here. I'm going to click the tangent tool, click the circle. In fact, it was already selected, so select the circle and then select the line you wish it to be a tangent to, and you'll see that little symbol has appeared. Again, click the edge of the circle and the line, and again that tangent symbol has appeared. I'm going to press escape to drop the tool. The escape key in the top left hand of the keyboard is really handy just for dropping the tools. If you get stuck, it might just be helpful just to hit the escape key and see if that sort of fixes the problem you're in. So these circles are still blue, they still have some degree of flexibility, if you like, and I can now drag them left and right, but I can't drag them up and down. They're stuck to the construction line we put in. But we need to have them the correct distance apart. So I'm going to bring in the dimension tool again, press D, click once in the middle of one circle, once in the middle of the next, move your cursor up or down, doesn't really matter, and click to drop the dimension. And this one is going to be 12 millimeters. Press enter. I'm just going to press escape here to drop that tool, and you'll note now they're starting to get less and less degrees of movement. I can move them left and right still, but now because they are always fixed 12 millimeters apart, if I drag one, the other moves with it. So all I need to do now is fix one in place and the other one will be fixed as well. So I'm going to press D and I click once in the middle of either circle, it doesn't matter. And then once on here, this is the midpoint of that construction line. Now it's going to try initially just to do the shortest distance, the sort of diagonal. That's not what we want. If you move your cursor up, you'll get the horizontal distance. I'm going to click there and change that so it's exactly 6 millimeters. And you'll note when I do that, these circles are now solid black. Any black lines in a sketch just means they're fully constrained, they can't be changed. So that sketch, if I look from an angle, is now done. Those two circles are in place, and we can right click and press pull those two eyes. So I'm just going to select 1, 2. Again, I'm holding shift key here now and the middle mouse wheel to roll my work round, and I'm going to drag the eyes in 6 millimeters. Okay, we're getting there. What we need to do now is add some fillets into those circles. You could have them as flat kind of bottom circles, but I found that the fillet makes them look a little more realistic. Now the shortcut for fillet is F, so I'm just going to press the F key. I've brought up the fillet tab. It's asking me to select the edges, and it's this inner edge here, 1, and this one here, 2, and then I'm going to drag them in 3 millimeters, or you could type 3 and press OK. The very last thing we need to do, the ghost is kind of finished as a model, if you like, but to be a pencil topper we really need to add in that circle in the bottom. Now we drew the circle as the very first sketch, and what Fusion does is after you've used a sketch it makes it invisible. So if I go to my component on the left here and I expand it, I've got a couple of options. I've got the bodies, those are the sort of physical three-dimensional shapes which I can turn on and off, but also I've got the sketches. If I expand the sketch tab in this design, I had 3 sketches. After you've used them they disappear. So sketch 1 is the one we're interested in, sketch 2 was the little wedge that we drew, and sketch 3 was the eyes we've just finished with. So I'm going to keep sketch 1 on, and now that it's visible again I can right click, press pull and select just that inner circle. Now what I would advise is we drag that in 15 millimeters. That seems to be far enough for the pencil not to kind of slide off, and it works pretty well. I'm going to press OK. I then need to turn the sketch off. If you manually turn it back on, you have to manually turn it off afterwards, so I've just pressed the little eye symbol there, and then I'm going to minimize all those windows just to neaten up this left hand side. Last thing to do then is to add some colour. That is under the Modify tab, and it's Appearance A. This is kind of like painting your workpiece, if you like. So you could press the A key or click Appearance. Now the one that I found works the best for this is if you scroll down to Paint, Glossy Paint. I've got a whole series of choices here. I'm going to go with red. So I'm going to click and drag the red colour and drop it onto my model. Now you'll notice the entire thing has become red. That's because we had bodies and components selected up here. So whatever colour we apply, the entire body becomes that colour. Now I want the eyes to be black. They're a separate face, so I'm going to click Faces, and then if I get the black out, I can just drag that into the eyes, and actually I'll do those little inner eye areas as well. You can drag from up here. These are kind of the colours in your design, or from the gallery itself, doesn't matter. Drag that out, close that down, and there we go. The only thing you might want to do is under display settings, just take the visual style back to shaded, and you lose that kind of rim around the top, and that's it. All finished. If we were going to go on to 3D print this, we expand the component, expand the bodies, and we've only got the one body, it's just the solid object. If you right click that, save as STL, it will bring up this window. We can press OK and save the file that we would then take to our 3D printer in a separate application, but I'm not going to do that today. We're just going to leave it as that. There we go.